Ever since I completed the video, I see throwing knives everywhere. Sometimes I look at my wife and her face looks like throwing knives.
Well, they do say happy knife, happy wife.
Yeah, but sometimes I have dreams where there's a bunch of throwing knives dancing around me in a circle, singing tick tick tick, while a health bar looms above me, depleting at a rate so small it's almost imperceptible. I can't even go to the shop without thinking I'm hearing that ticking chasing me down the aisles of the store while I try to buy ingredients to make more sandwiches. Also, I lost my ability to produce sound effects. I should have known when Baron asked me for a knife to get in character it was a trick. I don't know, what do you think, TheraPress continue?
Well, ignoring the fact that I was kind of distracted by my phone, let us go back a few steps. You tried to beat Dark Souls 1 using only throwing knives.
That's right.
The reason being...
Well, I thought it would be fun.
I see. So you thought that trying to beat Dark Souls with a consumable that does low damage and has no scaling or any other way to improve its damage would qualify as fun.
Yeah, I'm operating under the philosophy that one cannot spell fun without FU.
Yes, I see. Seems like you're not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Yet it does sound oddly relatable. Regardless, it's not exactly a sign of mental well-being, and therefore, my conclusion is that we're dealing with a clear case of post-traumatic knife disorder. Well, at least that's what I would have concluded if I had actually gone to medical school. Or in that case, I wouldn't have. Either or.
Oh god, what can I do?
Well, as I see it, or better said according to WikiHow, there seem to be three options. The first two imply doing either jack or shit. But the third option would be to just cut the crap and not play with knives for a while. And according to several studies that I may or may not have read, there are these concepts known as outside, real-life social interaction, exercise. I mean, it could be misinformation, but might be worth a shot.
I think I get it now. So what you're saying is, I should try to beat Dark Souls 2 using throwing knives next? That's a great idea. Thanks, TheraPress.
Is that what I said? Nah, screw it. If you're going to throw your life away, you might as well throw your knife away.
Well, let's get right down to it.
Well, that's all nice and dandy, but do you have insurance or will you pay for this session with your credit card?
Well, neither. I'm not a real patient.
Ah, well, I'm not a real doctor either, so I guess you got me there. Regardless, the least I can do is show you the way out.
Perhaps you've seen it. Maybe in a dream.
Well, this probably isn't going to go well. I start, as always, by making a hideous character to represent how my soul looks right now. Our first number one priority is to get to Melentia ASAP to buy our first throwing knives. Unlike Dark Souls 1, the normal knives are the only ones we can access from the beginning, but we'll need some souls to stock up. So we go Cheese Dragon Rider as always, plus use his soul. Normally, we buy good items from Melentia, but here we buy this crap. And what's worse is that the normal throwing knives are 100 souls a pop here, 10 times the price they were in Dark Souls 1. There's sure been some serious savage inflation between the two games. I can always count on Dark Souls 2 to remind me of real life problems. Let's check the damage against this hollow. Wait, what? 250 damage? Okay, but to be fair, damage is relative, as if we looked at the raw numbers, this hollow had way more health than any early Dark Souls 1 enemy, so not really a fair comparison. But still, it only took 2 hits, one less than against the early enemies in Dark Souls 1, and it seems the throwing animation is actually a little bit faster. What about against this turtle guy? Well, it took 8 hits, 86 damage a pop. I got 720 souls with the covetous Silver Serpent Ring plus 1, so unfortunately we made a loss of 80 souls there. Well, I suppose we should try our first boss, the Last Giant. He has 2530 HP, which is about twice as much as our first boss in Dark Souls 1, the Tourist Demon. So, this might wall the run right off the bat. Let's see what we got here. Wait a minute, what? 97 damage? That's like 2.5 times as much as we did to the Tourist Demon? That's amazing! I never saw damage from a single knife against the boss come anywhere close to that. 26 knives brings down the last giant, 12 less than the Taurus demon took. I'm in shock. Okay, but it's the first boss. Let's not celebrate yet. Let's try the Pursuer, on the first encounter actually. I'm guessing he'll take much less damage as he's got that thick armor. 75 health, okay, that's not bad. This was actually kinda easy. Took 45 knives. My only issue was remembering not to press a direction while throwing the knife, as it makes you throw it off in that direction instead of at the enemy you're locked onto. I'm not sure why Dark Souls 2 does this. If I'm locked onto an enemy, that's where I want to attack. If I roll, I have to wait a second for my character to finish rolling, reorient themselves, make sure I don't press the analog stick at all, and then press square. I also, on some occasions, healed, but then forgot to switch back to knives and used another life gem by mistake. Can you tell I'm still not used to consumable only runs? So we get the Ring of Blades. Does it increase damage from the knives? No, of course it doesn't. 166 damage both times. I'm going to leave Lenegrast outside the house as I've got no reason to let him in really. Also, there's a huge window there, why doesn't he just climb through? So one other crazy thing with Dark Souls 2. I was told the knives scale with dex, even though it doesn't seem to actually say it in the game. I tested it, and it is actually true. The damage increase is pretty small. 3 levels of dex made it do 168 damage instead of 166. But still, there is a way to increase the knife damage as we progress. Wow. One last test before we move on. I can't imagine this is going to go well, but we're going to try this ogre here. Oh my god, leave me alone! Okay, well, seems the throwing knives are still absolute trash at close range. This was a bit of a disaster, but let's try again. Now, that damage really isn't bad, you know. Without these guys getting in the way, we actually took down the ogre pretty easy. Is this run actually going to be fun? No, it can't be. Okay, let's grab the binoculars. May come in handy for aiming apparently. Well, before we do anything else, we can actually grab our second type of knives, the poison throwing knives, from our buddy Gavlan here in No Man's Wharf. Sadly, he only sells 20 at the moment, but 20 will be plenty. For now at least. Another bit of good news doing this run in Dark Souls 2 is that many more bosses and enemies can actually be poisoned. Some have higher resistances to it than others, but overall there's less of a chance of us being totally walled compared to Dark Souls 1. Now, I've got a specific route planned, and I'll explain why in a little bit. First, I farm a few easy souls and then use them to open this way right here. I then nipped back to Medulla, killed this guy for his armor because it increases souls gained from kills. Souls are going to be really important for keeping stocked up on knives and life gems, so this armor seems like a no-brainer. Plus, I look so adorable. With all these knives, I must be considered a criminal as I was manhunted by the cops in Huntsman's Copse. Like all good Souls YouTubers, instead of fighting the enemies one at a time, I ran through the area, got all the enemies to aggro after me, created a video clip of them all chasing me, and then complained about Dark Souls 2's enemy placement. With this crucial part out of the way, I was ready for the Skeleton Lords. Or at least I thought I was, but yeah, here's our first big damage drop-off in the game. They also can't be poisoned. Saying that though, I think with 99 knives, this probably is still possible as they have about 2000 combined HP between them and 99 knives should do 5940 damage. This doesn't factor in the skeletons they summon upon death, but I think this may just be manageable. Time to go farm for a few more knives. Well, I was wrong. Even with 99 throwing knives, I wasn't quite able to do it. It's that last lord who summons the horde of skeletons that caused the issue. Each skeleton takes at least 3 knives to kill, more so if they have their shield up, which they tend to do a lot. I did miss a few shots, but it didn't matter. It was clear for now it wasn't possible. Now, were this Dark Souls 1, I'd be pretty screwed and have to summon or something, but with Dark Souls 2, we do have some other options to consider. Firstly, I'm going to level up a bit as Dex will improve my damage, even if only a little. It could just be the difference maker here. So, let's head back to Hyde's and clear out these enemies in a completely non-cheese fashion. Okay, I killed all the knights, so just got to take out this dragon. I saved my poison knives for just this moment, time to watch some very slow health Whoa, look at that number! It's speeding along! That's the poison equivalent of a Ferrari! Right, he should die any minute now, we got this... Uh-oh. Okay, no messing about now. Poison and then normal knives at a rapid pace. Not gonna keep it dragging this time. So finally, we can face the old Dragon Slayer. He's hiding away up here. This fight made me realise one problem with throwing knives. You see, initially I thought they were faster to use than Dark Souls 1, but that's not quite true. Although the knife throw itself is quicker, the period after throwing the knife before I can move is longer, so I'm locked in place and unable to avoid damage. I should have all seen that one coming. Timing is crucial here, especially with the old Dragon Slayer having attacks that can close the distance pretty quick. We do 92 damage and he has 2880 HP, meaning it will take 32 knives to get the job done. It took a bit of patience and not getting greedy with knife throws, but down he goes and we get 30,000 souls for our trouble. With all this, I've pumped dex up to 40, so my hope is this will make a difference. Let's try the Skeleton Lords one more time. So last time the knives did 60 damage a hit, but since then I've leveled up dex by 21 points, so let's see what we're working with now. 68 damage. So 21 levels of dex for 8 points of extra damage. Worthwhile investment? Well, I joke, but actually this did do the trick. It was, no lie, one of the most intense fights of the whole run. I really didn't know even up until the end if the knives were going to be enough. This time, I killed the lord that spawns the large army of skeletons first. It still took 3 hits per skeleton, but with the reduced amount now needed to kill each lord, I finished the fight with 8 knives remaining. It was close, and the fight went about 10 minutes, but we got it done. This was a huge victory. We didn't do a skeleton of damage, but soon our journey will get made just a tiny bit easier thanks to this. First thing we do is head through to Harvest Valley and speak to Gavlan. Sadly, he has no more poison knives for us, but we'll be seeing him again soon enough. Onwards to Covetous Demon. Now, remember when I fought Pinwheel in Dark Souls 1 and I was amazed at getting 18 damage? Well, look at this. 176 damage. That's right, a throwing knife did 176 damage to a boss. I'm literally speechless. Never before has Covetous Demon brought me such joy. Anyhow, I grab a couple levels of adaptability and head to the secret passage to... God damn it. Okay, I made it, but wait, this isn't where I needed to go. Man, I'm so good at planning these runs out. Alright, so at last, found the way. I needed to speak to Laddersmith Gilligan. After paying 2 grand souls for a useless ladder, we can get to the good stuff. So here's a mind blower for you. In Dark Souls 2, there is a third type of throwing knife. That's right, the lacerating knife. This knife can cause bleeding. Laddersmith Gilligan sells them here, and after we exhaust his dialogue, he moves to Firelink Shrine. Although, he increases the price by 25%, going up to 350 souls a pop now. This knife does about 60% of the damage of the normal ones, which isn't bad here actually. This will give us a good chance of success, but before we continue down this way, let's go get unlimited poison knives sorted. By the way, I know with this vid and also with the Dark Souls 1 throwing knife vid, I'm not showing much of me going through the areas, but to be honest, most of it is just this. Running through, ignoring stuff because I don't want to waste my knives, especially with how much they cost here. But anyhow, it's time for non-union Quelaag, and our first chance to test out the lacerating knives. The way bleed works in this game is that it does a flat amount of damage, 200 HP when triggered. That's not 200 HP based on how much HP Najka has, that's 200 HP to any boss vulnerable to it. It's obviously way less powerful than Elden Ring for example, and 200 damage doesn't sound like much, but combined with the 75 damage per knife, it can stack up. Najka is super easy actually, I got through her without taking a single hit. She's very easy to just keep distance from, and has long openings where I can get 3 or 4 knives in. I'm feeling pretty good about this actually, one of my more successful tales so far. So with her done, we've got access to Gavlan's final spot where he sells unlimited poison throwing knives. Now, the only difficulty becomes keeping myself stocked up with all these different types of knives. It's 350 each for poison knives, so the same as lacerating knives. This means it would take just under 35,000 souls to buy 99 of either, plus the 9,900 required to buy normal knives. So if I ever ran out of all my knives, I'd need about 80,000 souls to fully restock, which is insane, and then you also got to factor buying life gems or leveling up. For now, I'm going to grab 50 poison knives and see how we get on with that. This is my knife stock right now. The last thing to consider with all I said above is that the knives obviously do way more damage than in Dark Souls 1, so for a lot of bosses I might not even need the full 99 of each. We can now go any way we choose, so I decided to return to Earthen Peak to take out some pent-up aggression on Metha. First, let's burn the windmill. Then head to Head Juicer. Now weirdly, I have occasional struggles with this boss. Some of the attack delays really throw me off. I decided to stick to just throwing one knife at a time, as she can quickly punish me with the charge attack, especially when I'm locked into place after throwing the knife. The normal knives do 125 damage again, which is pretty decent. With enough hits, she snake bit the dust. After a quick stock up on knives, we move to an area that I always dread on any Dark Souls 2 playthrough, Iron Keep. Worth stating that this place was pretty alright in vanilla Dark Souls 2, at least this beginning bit anyway, but in Scholar the amount of enemies and their aggro range is crazy. Honestly, I just find this the most tedious part of any Dark Souls 2 run because you just really need to farm the enemies into non-existence most of the time. But it's made worse here by having to rely on a consumable for damage. Poison knives might be a good way, but the knights take 4 knives to poison, which is 1400 souls worth, but they only drop about 1000, so I'm taking about a 300 soul loss with every kill. I decided the best way was to trick them to falling off by running an elaborate route around the area, which did actually seem to work pretty well. These knights randomly seem to have their AI break in certain areas. Like this big guy would consistently wander around for ages in this spot before just running off the edge. Eventually, I coaxed enough of these knives to leave me alone and dive into the comforting fiery arms of Lava Death. So now, just the Smelter Demon. The good news is that he can indeed be poisoned, and it takes just 4 knives to do it. The bad news is that he can 2-shot me with most attacks. I initially died a couple times, but my error was trying to fight him from a distance. Anytime you try to do this, you'll almost certainly get hit by this quick charge stab, so staying close is 100% the best way to avoid his attacks. Eventually, we make him ride the Smelter Skelter down to Helter, and I can breathe a huge sigh of relief. I'm not going to bother with the Pursuer who appears, because the Ring of Blades +1 offers no benefit to us. I stock up on knives and level up adaptability, mainly for the faster life gem use. So, the hard part of Iron Keep is over, right? Okay, for real though, this part isn't too bad if you can make it up here, drop down, poison the Turtle Knights till they die, run past this fire, and then light the bonfire. So easy it basically beats itself. At last, we can take on the first Great Soul boss, Ron the Old King. Now, Ron is susceptible to poison, which is good news, but it takes about 5 or 6 knives to proc it. Overall, it's pretty easy, and the fact I can hit him from range is super helpful, so it means I don't have to just wait for his attacks. The normal knives do 87 damage, which is a decent enough amount to help chip his health down. Eventually, he goes down, and we can leave Iron Keep behind forever. Or until I decide to play Dark Souls 2 again, whichever comes first. Even if this area isn't my fave, at least the knives seem to be doing a decent job so far. Well, as I'm in suffering mode, let's go do Royal Rat Authority. Now, a while back, I made a video listing my least favourite bosses in the series, and I put this at number 1. What, were you expecting me to say anything further? I don't regret that choice at all. Doing this with throwing knives makes it absolutely awful, even worse than usual. Seriously, it takes 2 knives to kill the small ones, so there's exactly 0% chance that I'll kill all the small ones before Budget Sif gets involved. Trying to then kill these little ones with throwing knives while the big guy repeatedly charge attacks is not fun. He does damage the little ones as well, but it's such a small amount. This is one boss I wish just didn't exist. It's a royal pain. It took a lot of attempts, but I finally managed to kite the rats around enough until I could kill them. Fighting the big guy is easier, and he's weak to bleed, but he can still 2-shot me as I am now, and I was so nervous about dying after spending 5 minutes killing those little ankle biters. Also, a lot of the time I kind of thought the Sif comparisons with this guy were, maybe not justified, but then I noticed here for the first time, this guy has the limp animation just like Sif. Why? This boss does not deserve to have one of the most emotional moments in Dark Souls 1 repeated. Let's get the hell out of here, I feel sick to my stomach. We head out the other route from the Door of Pharos, and it's time for Congregation. They tend to congregate together, but that's okay because I poison knife the Magus and the healers, and it's a lovely, easy fight. Just as a side note, it's still weird to me that the normal enemies have the damage numbers from poison, but boss health bars don't. In Dark Souls 2, the health bars at least have this random number 15 there, which lets me know that they're poisoned so I don't have to squint at the health bar. After having to strain my eyes at the health bars in Dark Souls 1 trying to work out if they were poisoned, I had to get prescribed stronger glasses, so I'm very grateful of that little 15 there. Duke's dear Freya thought she had the drop on me, but I spied her from a mile away. This was a bit long, but overall kinda easy. The damage from the knives was pretty poor to be honest, but luckily she is vulnerable to bleed, so this made up for it. Hitting the heads is tricky without lock-on, so I had to quickly run around the other head, turn, lock on, get my knife throws in, rinse and repeat. I used up almost all my lacerating knives here, but we got the job done in the end. Want to hire Freya for an event or birthday party? Well, you can check out her website. 2 Great Souls done, and I'm feeling kinda good about things so far, but there's still many bosses left. Speaking of bosses, this is a boss. I don't even have a joke for this, it's just a bunch of rats. I use normal knives as, to be honest, I don't want to spend expensive knives on this crap. It's over. They're not even vanguarding anything worthwhile. But, while we're down this well, let's knock off Great Soul number 3, Johnny Rotten. Despite living in a valley full of poisoned statues, he can actually be poisoned as well as bled. This makes it pretty easy to stack up damage on him, and the fight goes pretty smooth. He goes down first try. The only thing rotten here are his status resistances. So, funny thing, I haven't even done No Man's Wharf yet. I guess I took the No Man part too seriously. Flexile Sentry is a bit of a joke at this point. He's weak to both bleed and poison, so his HP just gets shredded. The only one flexing here was me with my little knives. I beat him hitless. My heart will go on. Sorry. Well, we've got the Ruined Sentinels next who get ruined by poison. They do move around a lot, and fighting 2-on-1 can still be a bit of a challenge, but overall not too bad. My health and adaptability level ups help with this quite a bit. Another boss down. You know, I was worried about the cost of knives being an issue, but honestly, I'm at full knife capacity and still have enough left over to level up twice. There's not been any grinding needed in quite a while. If there was one boss in this part of the game that I thought would be an absolute chore, it was the Belfry Gargoyles. But, despite the fact they look like they're made of stone, bizarrely they can be poisoned. It takes quite a few knives to poison them, but once they're poisoned, it's enough to kill them with 1 proc. So actually, I did this first try, so this has Belfried up my schedule significantly. So the last great one, the Lost Sinner, apparently a reincarnation of the Bed of Chaos or something. She's vulnerable to both bleed and poison, so you can probably imagine how well this went. It was another first try win. You know, it's crazy how different this challenge run is compared to Dark Souls 1. Of the big 4 in that game, every single one of them was immune to poison, which made it impossible for any players who wanted a poison build. Plus, the knives did such insanely low damage with no way to increase it. But here, I'm almost feeling overpowered. Almost. Against some of these bosses. The only big 4 member immune to poison here was Duke's dear Freya, but she was weak to bleed, so it made it kind of okay. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I'm actually enjoying this. This is such a weird feeling. Anyway, Moonlight Butterfly with the first sin pops up to remind me of a boring boss fight I've got to look forward to, and then we at last head onwards to Dranglake Castle. I know I skipped out the journey getting here, but honestly it was pretty uneventful. I did run into a bit of a roadblock here where I needed to kill one of the enemies to open the door. The knife damage against them isn't good, and I'm fairly sure they can't be poisoned. One thing I've learned is that throwing knives do not fare well when I'm against multiple enemies, and there's no way to aggro just one of these guys. But anyway, it's not that big an issue, we get him. Have a knife day. Speaking of multiple enemies though, Twin Dragon Riders are a boss. Yeah, that's all there is to say really. They have boss health bars. Now they're dead. So, hey, here's a joke. Why do I get wet whenever I play Dark Souls 2? Because it's Drang Lake. So anyway, let's get these next doors opened and... wait a minute. Hold on. I never did Executioner's Chariot. Back in a sec. Okay, well, that wasn't so bad. I gave that chariot a lariat and now it's coming forth to carry me home. Ah, so itchy. Why do I always chafe so badly back there? Hey, hey, you're still here. Hey, hi. Moving on to something less bottom related, we now have what we need to enter the King's Passage. Wait, what? So, Looking Glass Knight. Let's get right in there with the all-important question. Can he be poisoned? The answer is yes, actually. I was honestly expecting this to be a solid no, but here we are. The summons cannot be, unfortunately, but a few normal knives sorts them right out. It's probably one of the longest fights yet at around 7 minutes. The poison didn't last that long on him with each proc, and I suspect that this is going to start becoming a thing from now on. Great boss though, a high glass encounter in Dark Souls 2. You ready for the best area in the whole game? Nah, I'm just kidding, it's Shrine of Amana. Whenever I do a challenge run, as well as Iron Keep, this is another one that I always dread. I know from past experience trying to run through just doesn't end well. So I opt for the safe route, moving through slowly and picking off these enemies with poison knives. I also stupidly aggroed this Dragon Rider, which was completely unnecessary and took a lot of knives to kill. I kept on moving through, just slowly bringing down each one until I got to these two guys. There's no way to just aggro one of them, I found, so I took the approach of luring them back to this hut, but unfortunately I mistimed a dodge and got killed, so now I need to get myself all the way back there. So I work all the way back there, luring the enemies back to the hut where necessary, picking them off one by one until finally, at long last, I mistime a dodge yet again and die. This happened several more times, and by this point I was absolutely raging at both the game and my own ineptitude. In a crazy act of desperation, I decided to just try and run for it for pure lols, and I made it. I can't believe it. I don't know if I should be happy it's over or angry that I could have done that in the first place instead of wasting an hour. Let's just pretend none of this ever happened. I'm feeling froggy, so let's just run right through the Demon of Song. Surprisingly, since its soul gives a poison weapon, it can actually be poisoned and bled. This is pretty smooth again. Chuck some knives in once it opens up, and watch that health bar deplete. Demon of Song croaks, and we keep on keeping on. Vel, next up is Wellstad. I know from the boss weapons run I did in Dark Souls 2 he can be poisoned, but the poison doesn't do very much damage, and also it takes a long time to proc, 6 knives in this case. But staying at range actually makes this fight pretty easy. His charging overhead slams are fairly easy to dodge, and the second phase actually gives some huge openings to get loads of knives in. This was pretty easy again. Aegis dies a slow death from poison, and we beat him first try. With King's Ring in hand, we proceed on to Audia's Keep, where we start to see some of the more baffling additions that Scholar made. Like this petrified ogre. Firstly, there's such a large amount of space that you surely could easily get past this without using a fragrant branch of yore, but even disregarding that lack of logic, there's some stairs just to the left that get you right up behind here. So what's the point? Is it meant to be some kind of troll for players who don't spend that extra 10 seconds exploring? It just seems really odd. But anyhow, Ian the Guard Dragon. I mean, we already beat a version of this guy earlier, the only difference is this one has more health, but it goes exactly as you'd expect. Poison, bleed, yada 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 yada. Easy, first try. Now, onto another completely baffling addition in a similar vein as before. This statue here on this bridge. Again, the gap around this statue is so large, I cannot suspend my disbelief that our character couldn't get past this. If you've explored enough, you probably will have a spare one by this point, but still, could have done a better job at making this seem impassable. But we move onwards. The one area that Scholar actually made better than vanilla, Dragon Shrine. We easily poison kill the Drake Keepers here, plus the Dragon Knight champion. Now what about Ancient Dragon, I hear you ask? Can we kill him with throwing knives? Well, surprisingly yes. He is actually vulnerable to both poison and bleed, but because of his insane health bar, neither do a tremendous amount of damage to him. Luckily, the toe strat exists, which helps a lot, but I never seem to get the luck others do with him never taking flight. I end up using all 99 poison knives and all 99 lacerating knives, and he still wasn't down. Luckily, I had enough normal knives to get the job done, using 63 of them. That last bit of health bar seemed to take forever to go, but at last, this dragon is ancient history. This took 15 minutes, by far the longest fight of the run so far, but still shorter than most of those late game Dark Souls 1 fights, so yay? Consider this, it took me 5 minutes less to beat Ancient Dragon with throwing knives than it did the Stray Demon. That honestly blows my mind. So, with the Ashen Mist Heart, let's do that memory shiz and get the Giant Souls. Of course, we got to take on the Giant Lord here as well. I'm going to fight him on this platform, as apparently it's the done thing if you're a ranged attacker in Dark Souls 2. This is pretty smooth. Poison and bleed chip his health down with no issues whatsoever. It's maybe even easier than usual. With that sorted, the memories are done, but I still got one more giant soul to grab. I poison off these giants below the Black Gulch, and now we can take on Vendrick. If you can believe this, it was actually the most annoying fight so far. He can't be poisoned, which drags this out much longer than it needs to be, and even though he's slow, he can two-shot me with every attack, and his range is huge. I made some careless mistakes just because I kept getting bored during this, and he actually killed me with some surprise combos. I think he calls that one the Vendrick or treat. It's effectively just throw a knife, dodge his attack, walk back a bit, throw a knife, etc, etc. I used up all my normal knives. Luckily he can be bled, so the lacerating knives did a decent job, bleeding him out after every 4 hits. I made a mistake and nearly died at the last hurdle, but luckily was able to recover and finish off this super boring fight. Again, less bad than the Stray Demon because at least I was doing something the whole time here. Well, let's close in on the final bosses of the base game, Throne Watcher and Defender. Luckily, they both can be poisoned, but there is one thing that makes this fight quite annoying, their ability to revive one another. At this point, the knife damage has really dropped off, only doing 65 per hit with normal knives, and although the poison is good, it's kinda slow and requires 6 knife hits to proc here. I found myself on a couple occasions where I thought I was going to win, but I just wasn't able to deal the damage in time before the reviving started. Finally, I made sure to get Throne Defender really low on health before killing Throne Watcher and then managing to finish Defender off. This was an absolute clutch victory. I'm really tense, but we did it. Sandra jumps right in asking for a brawl, but we need to restock on knives. Not today, baby. Okay, so now we're ready to take on Sandra, and yeah, this was pretty easy to be honest. She can be poisoned, it takes quite a few knives, but it's not an issue. Her attacks are all extremely chill to dodge, we're just like, nah, Chandra, and even getting cursed a few times doesn't do much to change things in her favour. Down she goes. Moonlight Butterfly of the First Sin of course wants to jump in right after, but we warp out to restock. Aldia is Aldia, really not much different than usual. He's vulnerable to poison, but of course only when the flame shield is down. We poisoned him a few times, dodged his fireballs, waited around, questioned the meaning of life, and at last he goes down after about 10 minutes. But that's it. I actually did it. I completed the main story of a Souls game using only throwing knives. No summons or anything like that. I mean, obviously we're going to do that DLC, but wow, I feel happy. I feel happy. This is such a bizarre feeling. But of course, we've now got some unskippable credits to look forward to. Luckily, it's dinner time. Well, I guess it's DLC time, starting with the Crown of the Sunken King. Yep, I can already tell you're going to be immune to poison. So, after grabbing a bonfire and letting Sin start the Sunken City BBQ, I had one question I needed to answer. Do the binoculars actually allow you to aim the throwing knives? Honestly, it seemed really inconsistent, but then again this switch is in a really awkward place. Okay, open the chest. Oh, come on! Okay, try again. God damn it! Climb, 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 climb. I hate this area. Oh hey look, I managed to hit this ceiling switch. Get the chest, get the chest. Alright, got it this time. Now, let's resort to a classic tactic from right near the beginning of this video. There we are. Beautiful. Now, all important, can I hit this switch? You know, I think the binoculars actually did help there. We got the bonfire and slapped this dragon headstone into its rightful place. Awesome. Well, time for our first boss. Now, I've been avoiding this so far, but I am going to start save stating just because going off to buy all the knives again each time is going to be too much of a pain with how tough these bosses are going to be. Alana is immune to both poison and bleed, which is a bad time already. I thought this was going to be brutal, and I was right. It's actually not bad at all when it's just one-on-one with her, and you know what, it's even manageable when she summons once, but when she summons the second time, and you've got her, Velstad, and 3 skeletons to contend with, yeah, it gets out of hand. There's barely any windows to attack or heal. I tried to push through, but in the end I got smashed down. I tried taking out the skeletons, but the knives do very little damage to them, so by the time I'd almost taken them out, she summoned again anyway. Annoyingly, you can't even poison the Velstad summon even though normal Velstad could be poisoned. It's not impossible in terms of being able to deal enough damage to deplete her health bar, but you'd really need good RNG to pull it off. In any case, as much as I'd love to plow myself into this for a few more days, my allotted time to finish this run draws near, and the YouTube algorithm waits for no one. Plus, we've still got a whole bunch of other bosses to do. As a quick palate cleanser, let's go take on Gangnam style. So, I died once here, but as I did, something pretty crazy happened. I think Ancient Soldier Vogue damaged his own teammate. See, Afflicted Grave Robber is between me and Vogue, and as I get hit, Afflicted Grave Robber takes a huge chunk of damage. I can only assume that's from Vogue, as trust me, that damage is not from me. I fought this boss loads of times and I've never seen that before. Anyway, second try they go down, it's just poison them, run around, rinse and repeat, but I'm still kind of mind blown. What the hell happened there? How did Ancient Soldier Vogue damage his own teammate? I've never seen that happen before. Weird. Has this happened to any of you guys? Let me know in the comments below if you've ever seen this. So, we move on to the Old Iron King DLC. I got bundled by these guys, stuck my large burning rod into this round opening, and then decided to take on the only boss in the DLC that's not immune to poison, the Blue Smelter Demon. The poison doesn't take off a lot of health, but at least it acts quickly. If this fight was in Dark Souls 1 with this amount of health, this fight would have taken about 8 years instead of 8 minutes. Third try, he goes down. At least I didn't end up having to do that run back much. What kind of demon goes around sniffing women? A smelt her demon. So Fume Knight. At last, the damage from the knives has truly fallen off. Only 62 per normal knife and 22 per lacerating or poison, and of course Fume Knight is immune to bleed and poison. He has 10,100 HP, so is this actually possible? Well, it could be, but it would be very tight. With 99 throwing knives, we do 6,138 damage, and 99 of the other 2 knives would be 2,178 each total, which would make for 10,494 between all 3. So just enough damage to kill him, but it would mean all 99 throwing knives, and then 99 of the lacerating or poison knives, and then 81 of the other remaining type would all need to hit him. Plus, I need to survive for the time it would take to lay all those knives in. Again, similar to Alana, real world time limits are the true final boss, and at some point you just gotta move on and accept there's not much to be gained from plying myself into this. It does lock me off from doing Sir Alon, but that run back is so horrible that I'm not even fuming about it. Let's press on and tackle the final DLC where all 3 bosses can be poisoned. Like a true hero, I ran past all the enemies, grabbed the eye, and then decided to Ava go at this tiger boss. Although Ava can indeed be poisoned, she must have the highest poison resist of anything in the game. No joke, I used nearly all 99 poison knives and I only got 3 procs of poison. But in spite of this, I still won first try with a combo of this and the fact she can be bled with the lacerating knives. It was a good 10-minute fight, but was actually kind of fun and kept me on my toes throughout. She at last falls, and I make a feline for the bonfire ahead. With the ice all melted, it's time to unfortunately go grab this garrison ward key and also start freeing the knights. I also managed to break this guy's AI. Bringing him out of the barrel state with throwing knives seemed to cause him to just stand there while I peppered him with knives. It's a silent night for this holy night. So the Ivory King. Yeah, I pretty much knew this wasn't going to go well. To my absolute surprise, I actually got all the way through to the king on my first attempt, despite the knife damage being horrendous. Only took me 9 minutes. By this point though, I'd used about half of my stock of every knife. The king has about 8000 HP, but has huge damage absorption, so normal knives only do 44 damage, and the other varieties do 22. He can be poisoned apparently, but his resistance is through the roof, and I could never get it to proc. It's maybe possible, but crunching the numbers, the damage would be very tight, and having to go through 9 minutes each time to even attempt this, yeah, look, I think it's not going to happen. The DLC has really stepped things up. Well, I can't put it off any longer. Let's try this godforsaken area. You know what, I'm not even going to focus on the area before the boss. You've seen me go through it loads of times before, we all know it sucks. I'm summoning the NPCs to distract the reindeer and run through. Let's talk about the fight though. The tigers can be poisoned, but like Ava, they have insane resistance. Sometimes I chucked nearly 20 knives before it procced, but this was possible. After not being able to do Alana, Fume Knight or Ivory King, I was determined to get this done for some reason. Normally my strategy is to finish Lud off quickly, but of course here that's impossible. With both tigers in play, it became pretty chaotic. This was pretty stressful. It was a battle of attrition that took 19 minutes, the longest of this run. You know what, we haven't done one of these in a while, so here you go. It's over. I can't believe it. So, I know we missed some DLC bosses, but we completed the main story and about 85% of the bosses in the game, which is more than I could ever have imagined. You know what? Dark Souls 2 has given me a great gift here. I was just a guy with a dream to beat a Souls game with throwing knives. I rang up my good old mate Dark Souls 1, who I've been tight with for years, and said, "Hey man, want to come to the throwing knives concert with me?" But Dark Souls 1 blew me off, laughed in my face, and I was left on my lonesome. Then Dark Souls 2 came along, like that friend who's part of your group, but you don't know that well and don't have much in common with, putting their arm around me and saying, "Hey, you like throwing knives? Me too, let's go." And we went together, and we had a wicked time. I spent all these years thinking Dark Souls 2 was the black sheep of the Souls trilogy, making negative comments about it, but it still came through for me here when no one else would. Sure, the areas of the game I don't like were still annoying, but after the torture of doing this run in Dark Souls 1, I actually had fun during this more than once. Several times in fact. I guess I want to say, thank you Dark Souls 2. Let's hang out more. Let's go to a bar, or come to mine for dinner. You truly are deserving of your place in this series. Your enemy placement still sucks though.